Hello. We here at You Have to Watch This Movie like to cater to all of our listeners, and it's for this reason that the episode you're about to enjoy, Jeffrey McCrann Loves Fright Night, exists in two versions. You're listening to the longer of the two versions. We got a little sidetracked in recording this one, and if you just want to hear about the movie Fright Night, listen to the episode that comes directly before this one in the feed, episode 8A. If you'd rather hear about Fright Night, but also Barbra Streisand and Faye Dunaway and musical theater in general, you're listening to the correct version. Both versions, however, feature use of the term fuck Muppet. Thanks for your time, and enjoy Fright Night. Hello and welcome to You Have to Watch This Movie.
You have to watch this movie.
Oh, that's a good one. That's good. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Drew.
I'm Drew Mackey.
I'm Tony Rodriguez, and this is the podcast where we talk to the people we love about the movies they love. The movies that have moved them to the point that they've told the people in their lives, hey, you have to watch this movie.
Today, our guest is Jeffrey McCrann, who is here to talk about the 1985 horror classic Fright Night. Hi, Jeffrey.
Hi, good morning.
Happy Halloween.
Thank you so much. Did you get your Yankee candles?
I haven't, because we're recording this in like the depths of like the worst part of August, and it's very hot, and Tony's wearing a tank top and I'm wearing shorts. Mm-hmm. But we're going to pretend like it's Halloween, because I'd like to pretend that it's not August right now.
I got apple cider hand soap.
Ooh.
That's good.
You fake it.
That's good. Yeah. That sounds good. Why this movie?
Yeah, why?
I mean, it's the Wizard of Oz of gay horror movies.
Oh my, you know what? Okay. Hi, first of all. Second of all, I don't like horror movies, generally speaking, and much less vampire movies. But I enjoyed this movie. Now, if someone had pitched this to me as the gay Wizard of Oz, I feel like I would have strapped in...
The gay horror Wizard of Oz, which is like specific.
Oh, I see it now. Oh, I'm so glad you're talking about
it's
this movie.
structurally clean. It's just super commercial. It's super bright. It's not like ever that scary.
No.
Yeah, like Wizard of Oz is scary if you're 4.
True.
And I think this movie's pretty commercial.
Yeah, I was noticing it's definitely an R, but like there's only one pair of boobs in the entire movie, and like the gore is really over the top. There's not that much swearing. Like it's a fairly soft R for like a horror movie.
It's kind of violent near the end, right? It's kind of horrific.
Yeah.
Right?
In the best way, though, because it's all that real practical effects that we are missing now.
Oh,
right.
I want to talk about practical effects in this movie.
Like goopy, puppety, awesome special effects.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like you know a lot about this movie. Drew and I try to bring fun facts to surprise their guests, but I feel like you will know everything you possibly know about this movie.
I'll be surprised if we can surprise you with it.
Let's see if you will ever be surprised by anything that we offer.
I don't think I'm surprised by anything anymore.
Oh.
I
You're
know,
so
isn't that
jaded.
sad?
Were you around
like
for the
your
election of
first orgy.
2016?
Yeah, it's like, what else is going to happen?
Oh, God, okay.
Jeffrey, the reason we picked you for this episode, our Halloween episode, is that you know quite a bit about gay and horror together, joined together.
Yeah, my life.
It's not all your life. You also, you're a writer for many things.
That's true.
Including the Leah Remini musical, the full title of which was...
Insuppressible. The unauthorized was the absolutely unauthorized Leah Remini story, which we turned Leah Remini into like a Disney princess, basically. Like we gave her origin story that she deserves, starting on the boat at Sea Org and scrubbing the floors and realizing she was destined to be a celebrity. And so she jumped overboard with her Backstage magazine.
This may or may not exist online, you said?
I don't know about that. I don't think so. I wouldn't have come from me. I was happy with the kids and I was happy with the applause, and that was all I needed. Theater's meant to be ephemeral. You know this.
Yeah, I do know this, but I wasn't there for this ephemeral moment. Mm-hmm. Can we do it like an informal...
Let's just hope everything
reading?
goes great and we all get to keep working and we get through the year ahead, and then we'll get Leah Remini to play herself and we'll do it as a digital web series.
Oh, okay. All right.
And you can be in it.
Thank you.
Yeah, great.
Please, God.
I can't wait.
Oh,
Best case scenario.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
I mean, we recorded this, so you're going to be technically obligated to do it if it actually...
I mean, it's a binding contract.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You also are the author of a blog called Faggoty Ass Horror.
That's true. Started in 2009 Before it was like hip to be talking about gay horror, not to sound like an old crank.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm an old crank now.
Before Louis Bison's article about Nightmare on Elm Street 2 like told everyone what that movie was about.
I don't know her.
Woo!
That's not true. He's a sweetheart. He DMs me all the time.
Aw.
He's too busy to listen to this.
He's
fucking
so
podcast.
busy and
Yeah.
so popular.
Yeah, he's not gonna listen to it. Why did you start faggoty ass horror? What was the inspiration there?
I was obsessed with scary movies as a kid. It was just the thing that I remember. My mom worked full time. I had a single mom, like sort of common thread in all these 80s horror movies.
What did your mom do?
She was a paralegal, but my childhood was like all kinds of fucked up in the classic sort of 80s sense. Like my dad was a Vietnam vet. We had to move every 3 months to like sort of escape the, restraining order stuff. And then like she would be at work for basically 6 days a week, 7 days a week to just keep us in wrench. My grandmother lived with us too. And so I would go to the neighbor's house. And the neighbors had no boundaries, and they were kind of nuts. And the dad would always play VHS horror movies. It was like the boom of VHS.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember probably 87, so I was like 7 years old, watching Return of the Living Dead Part 2. They had done like an HBO, like behind the scenes, and I like was both terrified and obsessed with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then from then on, it was like all I wanted was to go to video stores and get horror movies, go to the bookstore and see like Fangoria magazine.
Right.
And that like stuck with me. And then getting older, moving out to LA, seeing like a screening at the New Beverly of Fright Night and realizing like half the audience is queer guys, I was like, oh, this is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like this isn't just me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where the blog came from. And at that point, it was just Andy at Camp Blood. He had this sort of site that was up in like 2008. And I just lost my mind. I was like, oh, cool. And it was like movies I hadn't heard of. It was
Right.
like The Fan with Lauren Bacall, Final Exam. Like,
What was the first
oh,
one?
The Fan's a treat.
Oh my god, it's so good.
Michael Biehn, like right before Aliens. So like he has this like fuck Muppet face, and he is obsessed with
Fuck Muppet.
like the pouty, like, oh, I haven't drank my face away yet.
Oh.
And he is obsessed with Lauren Bacall, who is playing Lauren Bacall. She's playing it like, but she's playing it 10 years out of her Broadway musicals. So like applause and Woman of the Year, but like she's getting a little long in the tooth, but she's still playing this Broadway diva in a
wow.
musical.
It's really good. You should watch
I
this
wanna see
movie.
this.
It's nuts. He has gay panic, and he lets a guy blow him on the roof, but because he like lets him blow him on the roof, he sets him on fire promptly.
Yeah.
It's intense.
Yeah.
What year is it?
81.
Oh God, I need to see this
A
movie.
treat.
Wait,
Okay.
have you seen The Eyes of Laura Mars?
No.
Oh my god.
Faye Dunaway
Yeah.
playing Faye Dunaway as a photographer.
Thematically similar movie. It takes place in the high 80s fashion world, and like she has a stalker.
Erwin
and-
Kirshner, who directed Empire Strikes Back.
Oh wow.
He directed this. John Carpenter wrote it.
Okay.
So it's like the pedigree's nuts. And it's very expensive. They shot in New York, and it's all about fashion photographer who can envision murders as they're happening.
Right.
God,
It's
I need to see
not
this movie.
awesome, but
Oh, it's awesome.
it's okay. It's not a great.
She's got a gay
film.
best friend.
It's enjoyable. Its flaws make it more endearing.
But that's true of anything.
No, there are some garbage movies you're like, this just sucks. I'm not enjoying it. Like
Those are bad movies.
I don't think
I don't believe in guilty pleasures. I think if a movie brings you something, like I become like militant about that in the past year, because like we always call something a guilty pleasure when it's female based.
Am I remembering correctly that Eyes of Laura Mars closes out with a Barbra Streisand song?
I'm like a prisoner.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The love theme from Laura Mars, Prisoner. It's on Barbra Streisand's Greatest Hits Part 2, the black and white album where she has the fro.
She sings it? Wait, it's her
She sure
song?
does,
Yeah.
because John Peters, the hairdresser, produced Eyes of Laura Mars, her famous awful producing partner.
Oh wow.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's
I've heard of this movie. I've heard of it.
It's one of those weird ones too, I think, because of the music rights, that it's sort of hard to find. It's
Okay.
maybe like looking for Mr. Goodbar, where it's never
Mhm.
had like these wide releases, or because I think they'd have to pay Faye again, or there's some story there. There's a reason it's not, because it
Mhm.
is like in canon. It's like a very commercial movie.
I met Faye Dunaway once,
Stop it.
and she was doing masterclass in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Yes, she was in 1996.
What? You know this?
That was the tour, yeah.
Yeah. She was playing Maria Callas. In case Drew, you know what?
you've told me this story before.
Oh, that's why. I took my mother. I also took my mother to see Bette Midler in concert
Good.
in Miami before I came out
Yeah,
to
that's
her.
a good mother.
Oh yeah, that's good, mother.
Mhm.
Yeah. She shook my hand backstage afterward in a way that Kathleen Turner recently just described Donald Trump shaking her hand,
Yeah.
which is like that middle finger rubbing against the
Oh,
palm.
she was trying to seduce you a little bit.
Yeah, in front of my mother.
She
Is that-
had a... Oh, sorry.
Is that what made you gay?
I feel like that would have made me straighter.
Oh.
That was her intent.
Yeah.
It's like she was trying to help gay boys coming to theater with their mothers.
She can fix it.
Yeah.
My friend did makeup for her on a shoot once, and it was like one of the famous bad days for Faye, and she was like, she kept putting her finger out. She just put her finger out, and finally my friend was like, I'm sorry, Miss Dunaway, I don't know what that means. And Faye looks at her and goes, when I do this, it means lip gloss. And eventually she decided she hated my friend so much that she had them put up a scrim because she didn't want that girl looking at me.
What?
Yeah, the
Her
story
code
says
was a finger means
finger
lip gloss?
out means,
And that's just
when
a
I do
universal
that,
human
that
thing?
means-
I don't know why you're surprised. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like Faye Dunaway. That sounds like a perfectly reasonable Faye Dunaway story. Yeah,
I've
I don't
only
question it for a
heard
second.
over and over and over every encounter from someone I know of Faye Dunaway is that she's absolutely...
But like that's the same, you know, when like you move out here and people start telling you Barbra Streisand stories, and you're like, oh yeah, great, this is a good story, because every Barbra Streisand story is kind of the same. It's like her eating off someone's plate and being like, who the fuck are you?
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know that. I feel like I don't hear Barbra Streisand.
No, it's not a
stories.
bad thing though. I mean, Barbara's earned it. Faye also got a tough break from misogyny though. Like
Yeah.
she didn't. I don't feel
Mommy
like
Dearest.
she didn't have a sense of humor about it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the gays embraced that, and Paramount shifted their whole marketing strategy when that movie came out to be like, oh, this is Camp Gold, everyone go see it. And she
Yeah.
didn't want it, but also she had to be punished somehow because, you know, she flew too close to the sun. But also I think it's like Sharon Stone where they're like a little difficult, and so that gets blown up because like people are always looking to take you down.
Mm-hmm.
And the minute that like you give them a reason, it's like, okay, bye.
If you're a woman specifically.
Yeah,
Right.
no, specifically.
If you're a man,
I
you
mean,
get,
Mel
like,
Gibson's
100
still he's thriving. Shia LaBeouf thriving.
Johnny Depp.
Oh, God,
Oh,
there's like a
God.
Chanel ad in Men's Health magazine. I'm like, why is he the face of Eau Sauvage? Like, 'cause
Yeah.
he's gonna beat the fuck out of me. Like, he looks insane.
Jesus Christ. Oh, also the fucking president.
Well, yeah,
Right.
that
Okay.
puts it all in perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Way to bring it down, Tony. Tony, you should read the synopsis of Fright Night, which is the movie we will get to eventually.
Will we?
We'll get to eventually. I also wanted to like ask you a Barbra Streisand story.
Elliot Gould goes to my gym, and I'm like personally mortified that he's never asked me about like dating his gay son. Like, what am I not good enough? Am I not fit enough? I'm wearing falsetto shirts. Like, I'm clearly like I've got painted nails. Like, I am a faggot on the elliptical. Like, why would you not think to set me up with Barbra Streisand's son? I would pretend that I didn't know who he was, and then just like till I got the invite to the house and be like, wait, who's your mom? This house is fancy. Like, I don't have the coffee table book about the $100 million farmhouse.
Oh, wow.
One of our guests picked Prince of Tides, which
We talked
I had
about
never
her.
seen before and is such not really what I thought it was going to be. But the most entertaining part for me was the idea of Barbra Streisand making her gay son catch and throw a football on screen and just being like, Mom, please don't make me do this.
She said you look like a
Just
faggot.
wild and ketchup.
Yeah.
That's how I imagine her.
Yeah.
Action. Catch it.
The problem with that
What's
movie,
wrong
this
with
is
you?
she gets in her own way, and this is misogynistic probably, but like the movie's unbelievable until the minute Dr. Lowenstein's in that movie, and all of a sudden it's about the gloss on the camera and the nails and like this glamorous woman, whereas like the story she's telling isn't that.
No, not at all.
And
It's
it stops the movie dead. It's like this great art house, like big budget commercial weepy. And then Dr. Lowenstein comes in and she's just the most gorgeous
Yeah.
therapist you've ever seen.
And I
with
couldn't look away.
her French manicure.
You
and,
can't look away.
Yeah, and the way she touches Nick Nolte's hair.
Yeah.
It's like very iconic.
Let me heal you.
Yeah.
It's my Barbra Streisand impression is just the side of Marlon Brando in The Godfather. It's yeah, that's what it
It's
is.
fair.
Yours sounds like Dr. Zoidberg doing
Who's
Barbra
Zoidberg?
Streisand.
Is that John
She's
Katz?
He's a character on Futurama.
Neither of us got that, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
I did Little Shop of Horrors in high school.
You did?
And it's funny because I'll hear it now, like the soundtrack, and I'll like plop into it like when I'm alone in the car. And I realized that my Seymour was just Barbra Streisand doing Seymour.
Really?
And suddenly, without warning, there was this total eclipse of the sun.
Oh my God.
It's like, who let me get away with that?
Sweep that floor, kid.
Well,
I started life as an orphan, a kid of the street.
yep. Gay kids.
Like
the
a
best.
slob, which I am.
Speaking of gay kids, Fright Night.
Fright Night.
Oh,
Tony,
right, the movie we're here to talk about.
Walk us through it, Tony.
Okay, guys, hold my hand. We're about to walk through the synopsis of Fright Night. Fright Night tells the story of Charlie Brewster, played by William Ragsdale. your typical American teenage boy who becomes convinced that his new neighbor, Chris Sarandon, is a vampire. Charlie's friends enlist the help of Peter Vincent, Roddy McDowall, an actor who long ago hunted vampires on screen, but has since fallen on hard times, to convince Charlie that the new guy isn't a blood-sucking monster, but they actually prove Charlie right. And Charlie suddenly needs to save his friends and himself. You just turned your hat backwards.
Yeah, it's getting serious. This is like,
that's what that meant. Okay, all right.
And it won't hit the mic, so thank you. We appreciate that. Fright Night was written and directed by Tom Holland.
Yes.
Sweet, sweet man.
So there's so much to say about this movie. The way I wanted to jump into it was just talking about the cast and the way all of them have some kind of major queer affiliation, except for William Ragsdale, unless I'm mistaken. Is there any gay association he has aside from Fright Night?
No, but that's why he works. That's sort of the watching it again, I used to like joke about it being like a gay allegory, but actually he's just the ally. Whereas it's 3 openly gay people in this movie creates a very queer energy. Just by like inherently, it's in the DNA. So you have Amanda Bearse,
right?
Marcy Darcy,
right,
playing William Ragsdale's girlfriend Amy.
Charlie, I'm ready.
Amy, you're not going to believe this. There are 2 guys out in the yard, and I think they're carrying a coffin.
And they're on the moors, right?
Amy, I'm serious.
So am I. Do you want to make love or not?
We have Stephen Geoffreys playing sort of a not even coded queer character, Evil Ed.
Hey, Amy. Amy! She finally find out what you really like. Buzz off, Evil. Oh, call me anything you want. Only you're the one failing prig, not me.
Well, let's talk about him when we get to him. But
and then Roddy McDowall.
No, sir, I was curious about what you said last night on TV, you know, about believing in vampires.
What about it?
Were you serious?
Oh, absolutely. Unfortunately, none of your generation seems to be.
What do you mean?
I have just been fired because nobody wants to see vampire killers anymore, or vampires either. Apparently all they want are demented madmen running around in ski masks, hacking up young virgins. Now, if you would excuse me.
I believe in vampires.
That's nice. If only there'd been a few more of you, perhaps my ratings would have been higher.
And Roddy McDowall, not openly gay to the public, at least. I have no idea if the people on the set would have known that, like, I am interacting with a gay man now.
They knew. I mean, he didn't pull Anthony Perkins and be like, I'm marrying a woman, look, everything's fine.
Yeah, he never married.
Movie. No, and he famously had, like, glorious Fire Island pool parties and, like, invited, you know, his best friends with Natalie Wood and Elizabeth Taylor, and they told him all the secrets. He, like, had the most glamorous gay life. His is, like, the like sort of open secret Hollywood story, because like he kept great company. Lauren Bacall, like you see those like Super 8 movies on YouTube and they're just nuts. It's like who's who.
I was looking for any sort of information about Roddy McDowall's like confirmed personal life or any interview he might have given. The best thing I found is this picture of him and Tab Hunter sitting on like, it's like a pose shot for a magazine. They're both not wearing shirts. I think they're wearing bathing suits, but they're sitting on like a beautiful staircase, and Tab Hunter's on this really pretty princess phone, and the caption is "calling all girls." I was like, oh my god.
Oh wow. We need to put that picture when we post this.
Yes.
I like how Tab Hunter was like the fuckboy to all these like hyper intellectual artist types, like Anthony Perkins, tortured actor.
I like that too. I mean, that I don't question that for a second.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
And then just beautiful blonde meat.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, hi.
I interviewed Tab Hunter back in the day. He was like talking to my grandmother. He was very old when I interviewed him, but like the way he was talking about things reminded me of my grandma, and it was like a weirdly touching thing, but also weird to be like, it's Tab Hunter, but he sounds like my grandma. It's very odd.
Just talking about old times.
Well, he was talking about this like greeting card store in Palm Springs, and he's like, oh, it just has like the nicest cards and like the nicest things, and was describing the things he would buy at the store, and it just sounded like my grandma being charmed by like a grandma store. She's like, oh my gosh, this store is just amazing and it has the best cards in the world.
You need to do an interview series where it's just celebrities talking about where they shop.
Yes.
I mean, that's good.
Nothing about their careers.
No, I just want to know, like, where do you get yogurt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had either of you seen Psycho 2, which Tom Holland wrote?
I love Psycho 2.
You've never
Oh,
seen
you've
it?
never seen it?
No.
Dude, okay.
Meg Tilly?
Meg Tilly. Okay, so skip ahead to
21 minutes and 41 seconds.
if you don't want a spoiler about this movie that we're not even talking about. But Vera Miles, is that the one who plays Lila in the first movie? In Psycho, she plays.
I'm looking up right now.
She plays Janet Leigh's, the woman who plays Janet Leigh's sister in the original Psycho, the one who like finds the desiccated.
Moore.
Oh my God.
The one who finds the desiccated corpse of Mrs. Bates.
Vince Vaughn.
That woman reprises her role in Psycho 2. And it's cool. I'm like, oh, that's great. She was still acting, and I'm glad she came back. She's dressed like a very well put together, like Lucille Bluth type woman.
Did she have a Walkman?
She does not. She is she's leading the charge to keep Norman Bates in prison because she doesn't think he's...
Anne Heche on the audio commentary of that Psycho is like so fabulously unhinged. She talks about what she ate on set that day. It's like, it was really hot. I had a tuna fish sandwich. Look at that umbrella. I've never seen Psycho. It's like one of the great performance art pieces.
I know which umbrella you're referring to, actually. That's weird. I know exactly which one.
Yeah.
So Vera Miles, I'm pretty sure that's her name, is in it. And she gets killed off in the most horrific way where like it's kind of comes out of nowhere. It was a big surprise the first time I saw it. She gets killed by getting stabbed in the mouth so hard that it comes out the back of her head and nails her to the floor. And I'm just like, oh my God, like you're in the original Psycho and you're like, I'll reprise my role. And I just can't, I like to think about her finding out like, that's how they're killing me. All right.
It could have been like a nod to Janet Leigh being so viciously, cruelly murdered the way she was, which was never done, right? Never done before in horror movies. Kill the star.
No.
This gruesomely.
Yeah, it is. Like, yeah, their sister gets it, like, 20-something years later. But, yeah.
They do that to Chris Sarandon in the Fright Night remake.
Ooh, really? What happens there?
It's like a computer-generated Colin Farrell. It's not really interesting, but then it's Chris Sarandon pulls up a car, like, what are you guys doing? And it's like, oh, God, he's brutalized. Let's get it. It's Vampire from the first movie.
Yeah. Chris Sarandon plays...
Wink.
Jerry Dandridge, which is the least scary vampire name probably in the history of pop culture.
Great gay name, though.
Yes, that's probably why he picked it, because he's posing as
Jerry Dandridge.
He's posing as half of a...
Do you know him, Jason? Didn't he do the cellar? Tell him the ice cream machine's broken.
It's broken, he said. It's broken. What's wrong with you? We need... Okay, we sell antiques furniture. That's what they do, by the way. Did you know that? That's what Jerry Dandridge does. He's antique business. The novelization of the movie, he and What's-His-Face are business partners, and they acquire and sell antiques furniture, and that's the source of his fortune.
His live-in carpenter, they call him.
Right.
Billy Rose.
Billy Cole.
Billy Cole, like Buddy Cole.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
So, okay, just so we can make sure if you haven't seen this film that we're explaining it explicitly, the situation is that the vampire who's preying on women seems to be using the guise of being a homosexual as like a cover, so no one suspects him of being the person that's responsible for all these female bodies that keep showing up all over town. And he has this man who has a kind of ambiguous relationship with him that he's very like physically close with, and he's his carpenter. And it's the weirdest thing in the world to watch, but no one in the universe of this movie seems to have any problem with it because, they're a gay couple. They sell antiques. That makes sense.
Doesn't the mother, as they're moving in, like, oh, look, someone's painting.
Have you seen the new guy next door yet?
No, but I did hear he's got a live-in carpenter. My luck, he's probably gay.
No, I don't think so.
Why? What do you know that I don't?
Oh, nothing.
Who's an all-star, by the way? Do you have the internet open? Like, what is her name? Because she's spectacular in the movie.
Dorothy Fielding?
Yeah, and who didn't do a whole lot, really. She doesn't even have her own Wikipedia
Watching the movie
page.
as an adult, she's mopping the floor with them.
She's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think it's probably one of the reasons the Toni Collette role in the remake got so beefed up, because they realized that the mom just drops out of the second half of this movie, and they probably should have made her part of the action.
Ish, but Tony's on the phone in the remake. It's a like apples and potatoes scenario because like the woman Dorothy, she's so lucid and she's so like bitsy, but not in a like overt like I'm changing the tone of the movie way.
Right.
She's just like very present. It's like, oh, this is a great mom character. It will be hard for the vampire to get past her.
First you want to make love and then you don't. Amy? Charlie? What's wrong?
Nothing, Mom.
Come in here, you two. Are you kids having a lover's spat?
No, Mom, nothing like that.
Well, there's nothing wrong with it. It says right here that the divorce rate is 76% higher among couples who don't argue before marriage.
Mom, we're in high school.
I think that this movie operates sort of, dealing with woke culture and the way that we present LGBT issues. There is such a thing as invisibility. Like we vanish by people from the narrative. It's like, they're not real. Haha, you're just a step away from being gay. I think that Jerry Dandridge is a bisexual. Like, vampires are sort of, it's like, Sex in Space. It's like, is Poe Dameron gay? Like, who cares? It's like, he's probably will fuck anything. And like, I think that's the thing with Jerry Dandridge, because during the course of the narrative, he tries to have sex with Amy, Marcy Darcy, and Evil Ed. Like, he sort of gets everything that Charlie wants. Jerry proves I can take. It's just sort of, he's the alpha.
Wow. So
So he's sexually, whatever. So I think he and Billy Cole have relations. I think they're down. I mean, they're restoring the house.
If Billy Cole is even, what is he? He's not human, is he?
no, right? He's not.
No.
Like
He's
it's
like a.
like the relationship is left to interpretation. The nature of this character is also weirdly left.
He's sort of the Renfield.
yeah, except he has better posture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The novelization says he's explicitly not a vampire, might be necrophiliac, but also not human.
I love that you know all this about the novelization.
Oh,
I have it.
You have it?
I have it.
Have you-
it's
you've
one of
read
my,
it?
No, but I like to
Okay.
collect things, and I have, because it's famously hard to come by. It was like the guys who wrote it became like sort of that cyberpunk horror. Like they were of that moment. It's not cyberpunk, but it's the equivalent. So like while Gibson and everything was taking off in cyberpunk, I think Skip and Spectre maybe were their names, and they were coming up in horror writing.
These are the authors of the novelization.
Yes,
Okay.
and famously, like, so they had their own success, but like they famously wrote this novelization as a gig, and like then the novelization sort of took on its own life as a thing.
I didn't know that.
A life of being in people's homes and maybe not read.
I lived for an adaptation though. I did a book report on Single White Female. I did a book
Wow.
report on Not Without My Daughter, the Sally Field vehicle.
Oh, wow.
And I did a book report on Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Really?
This is the second time this movie has come up on this season of the podcast
Bill
so
and Ted's
far.
Bogus Journey?
Yes.
Because it's a masterpiece?
Yes.
I've never seen either of the Bill and Ted movies.
That's so awful. Mark Fortin had never seen Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and I took him to the Arrow.
And did he like it?
He left afterwards. It's just, like I said, it's not the response
Okay.
I wanted, but he didn't stay for Bogus Journey, but I sure did.
Well, I would like to have him as a guest at some point, so we'll ask him when he comes on. What did you think of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
Because it was very formative for me.
Like Knock Me into Puberty. Connor Reeves. Oh.
Yeah, and the like midriff top on Bill S. Preston.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I have one interesting thing to share about the guy who plays Billy Cole. Straight, ended up becoming a TV writer, wrote the puppy episode of Ellen.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I was like, oh, okay, that's
His
cool.
first acting gig in like 25 years was on The Comeback Pilot.
Wow.
Oh, who's he in The Comeback
She
Pilot?
gets like in a car accident,
Uh-huh.
and he's the guy who's like, wait. And that's him.
That's not George Costanza?
No.
It could have been.
I don't know if this is going to be a controversial thought. I told you, Drew, this while we were watching it. I felt like the quality of the acting was so good.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the movie,
Mm-hmm.
save one actor.
Mhm.
And that actor was Roddy McDowell.
I don't know why he's wearing a powdered wig. Literally powdered. He's covered in baby powder.
Is he supposed to be old, or is he supposed to be someone who is costuming himself as old?
Apparently in interviews, he'd been used to playing younger than his age for so long that he loved the idea of playing someone that was close to his age. So maybe he leaned in the other direction.
Yeah.
I need to look as old as I've never looked like this before.
Yeah, he could have just looked like himself and would have been like down. Especially because he's supposed to be sort of like, the cool thing is that Peter Vincent all of a sudden becomes their contemporary. He's like, all right, I'm down.
Your friend needs a psychiatrist, not a vampire killer.
Please, Mr. Vincent.
I'm afraid not. You see, Hollywood beckons. I have just been offered a starring role in a major film. I have even had to quit Fright Night. And so you see...
I'll give you money.
How much?
I have a $500 savings bond.
I'll take it.
Like he has this moment where he realizes that Jerry Dandridge is a vampire through the mirror, and he sort of queens out a little bit and runs outside like, oh, I couldn't possibly, not at my age, not a vampire. And then like from then on he's down, and like things get there's a really beautiful scene. I'm jumping ahead, but there's something about being an older gay, and Evil Ed shows up having been turned into a vampire. This is the part I'm really jumping ahead. Looking like Trade.
Yeah.
Like full on, shows up at the door, comes in, he's like, "Hey bro, how are you?" Like full on
80s
Trade.
gutter punk Trade.
Yeah, and like in a time when men in their 60s were routinely brutalized by Trade. Like the guy from Hello Dolly was murdered.
Really?
The cutie little Barnaby. Yeah, he was Barnaby Tucker. Like he was doing the tour. He's the only actor from the movie who kept doing the show because he was a little showboy, and he was like that was his thing. He was like bisexual, but again, one night in the valley, meets some Trade, takes him home, gets stabbed to death, and that happened to
Salminio.
Yeah. And so it's like I watched it as an adult and being like, wow, this is an interesting dynamic because
Pasolini too. Yeah,
it was a thing
that does happen a lot.
And Roddy is playing the interactions with Ed with a lot of compassion.
What are we going to do? What are you gonna do? Not me. Yeah! Now, I used to admire you. You know that? Well, of course. That was before I found out what a fake you were.
Because also, Stephen Geoffreys' performance is so mannered, he's not really connecting. He's sort of doing child star acting, where it's like, I'm acting in a scene, until he's with Roddy, and then he's like all of a sudden making eye contact and he's in a scene.
Right. So this is skipping ahead again, but like they have two big scenes together. One scene where Evil Ed, who we'll explain very shortly, tries to kill Peter Vincent in his apartment, and then another scene where they fight at the end of the movie, and Roddy McDowall kills him. And I will agree with you, Tony, that a lot of times Roddy McDowall's acting, I was like, I'm maybe not feeling this that much. Those two scenes, especially the scene where he kills Ed, he's acting the fuck out of it, and he's not saying anything. I would put a clip in, but there's not a clip. He's literally just watching his facial expression change. And then I'm like, oh, this is real. I totally buy this. So in those moments, he was great.
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But also, I like the horror host. You know, Peter Vincent is this sort of schlocky B-movie horror host. Chiller just did
like a non-sexy Elvira.
Yeah, Shudder just did the Joe Bob thing.
Right.
Which was so spectacular in a way that I don't even think anyone could have anticipated how much we missed that.
I had that in my notes. Why don't we have this anymore?
We had it with FearNet we were supposed to do. I was going to have Peaches Christ do it. And like,
oh my God, that would be so good.
It was approved, and we had a conference call, and then, 6 months later, FearNet was gone. But like, there was always the sort of thing of like, if you're going to be a linear or digital streaming horror service, you have to have the host. Mm-hmm. And they sort of positioned this Joe Bob Briggs thing as like, we're going to do it one last time, but it blew up. I mean, they broke the site. And that's the kind of thing. And same thing with Elvira. It's like, everyone wants this. So I loved the element of, we are missing this sort of schlocky horror host because we all have access to content, but there's something about having the content filtered through the lens of someone who's like in on the joke, being an expert, but also like loves it. Mm-hmm. And that's what's missing in the sort of like, I cut the cord years ago, but like I missed the experience of like watching TV and just like, I'm committing to this because it's what's
and
on.
Having a shared experience and being like, I can't fast forward because I'm stuck watching this because it's happening. I'm seeing it as it's happening.
Yeah, like I have Reanimator Arrow Blu-ray, but I want to watch the Joe Bob Briggs narration on the shitty SD version because there's a quality to that. It feels like it's both pastiche and feels current. Right.
I would say that I'm not going to try to elevate my own podcast here, but in a lot of ways, that need might be filled by podcasting, where people are in on the joke and talking. Like, there obviously is a real enthusiasm for it, and they're picking it apart. And yeah.
No, absolutely. I'll listen to, say, Blank Check, and I'm like, oh, I have to go home and watch Vanilla Sky, which is like not a movie I would ever have wanted to watch.
I'm a dancer. I dance.
That's good.
Thank you. Gracias.
That was a robot or something?
Gracias. No, es Oscar Mina Pinapicu.
Oh, okay. That's right.
When you don't move your mouth.
Thank you very much.
Okay, real quick. Evil Ed, he's the weird friend. Why is he called evil?
Yeah.
The remake posits that they were nerdy together. So it's like, I don't know why. There's a weird line where he talks about, like, the vampire wouldn't want you because he's going to get AIDS. Like, that was something I didn't pick up on at the time.
Right.
And I definitely picked up on it this time. It's, like, sort of the open secret of, like, 1985. Like, oh, yeah, Ed's the gay kid at school, and he's obsessed with horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is common for gay kids because you're sort of an outsider and you're looking for this thing that you have community in. You don't have the sort of like, what's your gay community? Like, you're not being able to, that's not dictated by culture, especially in the 80s when you don't have the internet.
Right.
And you don't have social media. So you're just based, like, for me, it was going to the store. I would look horror's queer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because especially those Clive Barkers come up and, like, there was sort of
Right.
a sexuality to all of that. A lot of it is female gaze, too. Like, you watch a Nightmare on Elm Street movie and those boys do, like, they're fuck Muppets.
Mhm.
They're presented visually,
Muppets.
like, very pretty. And it's sort of like from the female, the women are, this is where the aughts sort of lost the plot with horror. It became like that Saw thing. It became abject in a way that the 80s horror never was. I don't even think that Texas Chainsaw is abject because I still see her having the power.
Not as much as like those awful like body horror
There's
movies.
no character, there's none of that. But you watch
Right.
Nightmare on Elm Street, you watch Friday the 13th even. The women are they're in the driver's seat. And so you don't feel like there is always bro movies, but like I'm never drawn to those
Right.
as me. Like I'm always interested in the sort of phantasmagoric, the Suspiria stuff, or the stuff that's feminist. Nightmare on Elm Street's feminist.
In a lot of ways.
I need to see that. The second one I do need to see, right?
I always
Really
try to tell
gay.
Tony, like, could you watch this? Would the violence be too much? I think the Tina's big scene would be too much for him. And
I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street 1 is a real horror movie.
It's really splattery.
It's because you care about them too, so that when
Yeah.
things happen, it's like it feels like a violation.
Well, you said that while I was thinking of Evil Ed's death in this, which is horrific.
Incredibly graphic.
It's graphic, but it's also very moving. And
yeah, you're losing a character.
but also I cared.
Right.
By that point, this movie I think is so well done, so well written and acted that by the time the horror elements came, I cared about all the characters.
Yeah.
So in that way, to me, it was effective and earned in a way that I think a lot of horror, my resistance to horror is like torture porn. The torture porn element of it, graphic violence for its own sake, which is repellent to me.
Yeah.
It's still repellent to me. I hate violence on screen.
No, there's
But-
stuff we're aging out of that, especially as you mentioned earlier, like the Trump year. It's like the last thing I want to watch is Walking Dead right now. Like we're living that. Like we're
Mhm.
living this sort of post-apocalyptic. When I watch the 80s movies specifically, though, I don't get that vibe because it's so character-based. It's like saying that Psycho is Psycho is probably the most objective of the Hitchcock movies,
Definitely.
but like they're character-based.
Right.
You care about Rear Window because you spend an hour with them first
Right.
before shit gets crazy. And so I feel the same way about Nightmare on Elm Street. I feel the same way about even Friday the 13th. I care about these campers because they're sort of enjoying each other's company. There's a tone in which they're
They
like
seem
happy to be
nice.
there. Yeah.
Do you think this is a great horror film?
I think this is like I said, The Wizard of Oz. This is like sort of a
Okay.
classic. Like structurally, it's just there. It's anyone can watch it. It's not niche in any way.
I proved you right. I could watch
'Cause
it.
you,
I watched
you,
it.
well, you liked it.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Where would you put Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th movies?
For me, those are my comfort movies. Like I fall asleep to Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Okay.
I remember watching Part 5. Fame on the blog. I'm obsessed with that actor in Part 5, and he eventually, like when I was at FearNet, reached out to me, which was funny.
Wait, which actor?
Joe Seeley from Nightmare on Elm Street 5.
Which
he
one is
has
he?
the comic book.
Yes.
Very much my aesthetic that I'm drawn to. This sort of tall, lanky, borderline Jewish.
He gets drawn into like
That's your
a
type.
bad version of the Take On Me video, basically.
Not
Yeah.
bad. Stephen Hopkins, the director of Lost in Space, starring Matt LeBlanc.
I mean, bad because he dies in it. The girl in Take
Oh, he
On Me does
yeah,
not
no.
die.
No, she doesn't. And it felt a little cheap, and it felt a little like all the other characters got a real comeuppance or got a real arc, and they just sort of didn't, like they ran out of money.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, cool, let's wrap it up. And he deserved a little more. He was this sort of nebbish, like intellect. And anyway, he reached out to me, and it was like one of those great moments where I was like, oh wow, I've actually done something where this actor I was obsessed with.
Because of your blog.
And like I had mentioned him as like a running gag. Of course, because I'm in a development position at a network. He's like, I'm producing a movie. And I'm like, great. So you don't just want to make out.
Speaking of actors we all have crushes on, we need to talk about Amanda Bearse.
Famous theater director now.
Sitcoms, comedy. She's like so good.
Boss bitch.
Yeah, I was looking at her. She directed most of the episodes of Gay Sketch Show, Gay Sketch Show.
Yeah, that was her show.
And a ton of Mad TV.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up watching Married with Children, and it is very weird to me that she was playing Marcy Darcy 2 years after this movie came out. 1987, Married with Children started. 1985, she's still playing cute little high schooler Amy in Fright Night. It does work for me because she's adorable, and she does seem very, very young.
She's doing bits, though. Like, she's a little, like, I'm young, bitsy.
She was in her 20s, right?
I watched this with a Hawkeye with her because the character vacillates sort of wildly.
Yes.
Because so much of her arc is about her sexuality.
Mm-hmm. But when it's not her sexuality, she's being cute and funny, and I can see why she went into sitcoms after this.
She's a comedy pro.
Yeah.
I mean, she's giving you bits and, like, they're landing in a movie that shouldn't necessarily have bits.
Yeah.
She dresses more like a mom than Charlie's actual mom.
It's funny because the last scene she's not. The very last scene, she's just wearing like a t-shirt and jeans, and I'm like, oh look, this is how like she's supposed to be. It's like she was playing a part the whole time.
Right.
And her breasts enlarged when she was transforming.
So she
kept those breasts.
Spoiler.
She kept the breasts.
And her hair got longer too.
Yeah.
Well, that was the sort of archetype, which also made me think of like Aquaman coming out and like, what the fuck is with straight guys? Like, I thought James Wan might be gay, and then you see the way he made Amber Heard look in this movie, and I'm like, oh no, you're not gay at all, are you? Because like, what is with straight guys? Because she has this sort of artificial red wig. And it's like, what, have straight guys never seen red hair before? Like, why do they all have these girls in these, like, ridiculous wigs?
It's because they don't notice details like that. They're just like, well, how do her boobs look? Okay, great. Like, that's not something most straight guys would spend a lot of time thinking about.
And lately I've been obsessed with Bugsy Malone. Have you seen this? The Alan Parker musical with kids playing, like, gangsters. And Paul Williams wrote all the songs. And Jodie Foster's in it, but it's the year she had done Taxi Driver. And so by being obsessed, I watched it like 5 times in a week. I watched all these interviews because apparently it was a huge hit in the UK. And so they had like a 30th anniversary reunion, and Jodie's like totally down. Like, of course I'll do that, because she's sort of a kook. She's in these interviews talking like so casually about how like she's hypersexualized in it. And it's not about the fact that she's sexualized, which I realize like that screws you up for life if you're a child star. It's like, that's just not a good, like between Taxi Driver and this, because she sings this sort of like vamp song, and she's like touching all the boys' faces, and she has this manner, she's not acting, like she's freakishly good. That's sort of the Jodie Foster hallmark, is freakishly good.
She's freakishly good.
But she does talk about how like out of place she felt in the girl clothes. And it's sort of like the gender binary, and like, I felt this with Marcy in the movie, where it's like...
You can call her Amanda.
Yeah, they sort of prop her like they don't know what to do with her, and she's trying to fit this box that isn't her at all, which does fit for the character Amy.
Right.
But at the same time, it's weird because like she, starts out making out with him, then she wants to watch the horror movies, and then she wants to fuck.
Then she wants to fuck. Like, I mean, we can talk about, like, we're about ready to say, we're going to take a little commercial. Why don't we just say that now? We're going to take a quick commercial break. We will be back with more in-depth discussion about the scenes that matter to us in Fright Night.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Hey, Tony, did I tell you about my new rug?
The Nomad rug you got from Jungalo.com. Yes, you won't stop mentioning it.
I just think it ties the room together.
Well, maybe you should complete the look with some of the other items you can get from Jungalo.
Like what?
Well, Drew. Designer and author Justina Blakeney has a really good eye, and she's put together a really great collection of furniture, lighting, art prints, and other lifestyle goods that probably go really well with the rug you bought.
Do they have festive throw pillows?
Yeah.
Do they have clay pots with faces on them?
Yes, and more.
Wow. A discount would be nice.
Well, fans of You Have to Watch This Movie can use the checkout code THISMOVIE, all caps, and get 15% off their purchases. Also, haters of You Have to Watch This Movie can use this checkout code.
That's right, anyone.
That's jungalow.com, JUNGALOW.com.
Not juggalo.com. That's a different website. It's like bungalow with a J.
And seriously, I really did buy the rug. I'm not just saying that for the ad. If you go to our Instagram at HaveToWatchPod, you can see a photo of my beautiful rug with my beautiful dog sleeping on it.
Oh, he is so beautiful. But you cannot purchase the dog.
But you can buy the rug.
At jungalow.com. Buy the rug.
Inside closed quarters, night's calling under blood red sky.
So
We're back.
We're
Bernadette
back.
Peters
Hi.
is the Taylor Swift of musical theater.
Yeah.
That was off
Spoiler.
mic. So that's now part of the episode. So thanks, Tony.
I saw her
Dragon
live
Grandma.
and she did a bit where she's like, I've never sung this song before. And it's literally like the exact bit from her 1995, like Sondheim, etc. album. Like, bitch, we all saw YouTube. Like, you have sung this song hundreds of times.
Wow.
You can drop the shtick.
Did you see her do Gypsy?
Yeah, I did. I got standing room. It was one of the only times like I didn't know what to do with myself sexually in my 20s. I just didn't know how to live. And so like I had standing room and there was like a really hot guy next to me and he like asked me to go out with him afterwards. It was like clearly meant to be like a fuck fest. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get some pizza. You want some pizza? And then I was like, all right, have a good night. And just literally just didn't know what to do. Where it could have been this like, oh, we saw Bernadette Peters who's ready to fuck. But no.
You are exactly Bernadette Peters near the end of Gypsy and her 11th hour number. Mom is coming out. Mom. And then she's just like, she just stops because she can't. You couldn't.
When I worked at North Shore Music Theater, apparently Rita Moreno had done Gypsy there, and she forgot the words, and so at the end she just goes, runway, runway, off of my runway. It's just still just funny.
Oh, that's funny.
Everyone, we're back. We're talking about Fright Night.
Welcome to a musical theater podcast. You have to hear this musical.
I mean, if you guys want to start that podcast, I am not against that idea. I think
gays and horror and musicals are like that's like my life. That's
Like-
like my two interests.
one episode's about horror and the other episode's about a musical. Please, why don't you do a horror musical? That one with Minnie Driver was not good enough.
I'm working on it.
Yeah,
It's hard to break people's heads of what they think a thing is supposed to be.
right.
You did see Bat Boy the musical off Broadway?
It's a huge hit. You're acting like that's niche.
No, I mean that's to me a horror musical.
Oh
Drew's
yeah, no, it was
staring at
great.
the ceiling.
It was great.
I know what it is.
Much
No,
better
I mean
than,
that we're going into
Evil
musicals.
Dead does the thing where it's like I don't like whenever they do genre musicals. Sorry, Drew, but we're good. Just a quick minute. They like pick a thing. It's never like they're always having to be jokey. Like Evil Dead is like bits. Don't you love our song bit? And it's like Bat Boy comes closer to like I'm actually a musical.
Yeah.
That just happens to be about genre.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's still room to grow.
Jerry Dandridge could have a musical number here. You Have to Believe, where someone's holding a cross and he's like,
So I think he would sing a song about bats.
"That's yeah."
You drive me batty. And then, like,
I
all
like
of a
that.
sudden he's
There we go.
spinning and rising above the audience, like
Mhm.
turn off the dark.
I'm eating fruit because I am one.
He loves to eat fruit.
Do you know why?
Because
Why?
he's hungry.
No. Well, yes.
He eats the apple like a nut. I've seen people do that where they just like eat through the core, and I'm just like unnerved by it.
That
They
was
eat
the
the
most unnerving
core?
thing for you in the movie.
Yo, absolutely. The close up on
That's
him like
terrifying.
biting through the core. I know this kid
Yeah.
Jimmy, who's a doll, like one of my brother basically, and he eats the apple the whole thing, and I'm like, oh, you're a nut. But he also is a supermodel, and he has no body, so like
Well-
he takes what food he can get.
Oh, I see.
Mhm.
Like fruits are allowed, so I mean the whole
I'll eat
thing.
the core, yeah.
Okay. Not pizza.
What were you gonna surprise me with?
Well, Chris Sarandon, it was his idea to eat fruit because he was fruit bat and he thought he would be able to clean his teeth with the fruit, but also Tom Holland realized that he was giving himself physical activity to make his lines seem less line ready, to give himself business, but he loved it. And that's why it was Chris's idea.
Because otherwise, a lot of his deliveries would be him coming out and like presenting information
I'm a
to everyone.
vampire.
Yeah, I'm coming down the stairs again. I'm gonna say something's creepy. Right.
Speaking of the acting, did you know that Tom Holland studied with Lee Strasberg at the Actors Studio?
I did know that.
You did know that?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Did you know that he had the cast rehearse the movie for 2 weeks before filming?
I did not know that. Do you know Kubrick did that on Shining?
Really?
And then filmed it all, but then had the tapes burned.
Oh, why? burned.
He's just like, don't want anyone to see that.
Crazy.
Did you know that he was starting to make a Napoleon movie?
Oh, he's full on. Like, he cast Nicholson. That's how, like, the holdover to Shining was because he had cast Nicholson to be Napoleon. Wow. And now someone's trying to make it someone straight.
Isn't Jack Nicholson tall? Okay. No, we're not going to get into Napoleon's height.
What movie are we here to talk about?
Fright Night. We were just talking about it a second ago. We had them hang out for 2 weeks.
We finish Evil Ed? Evil Ed is a gay character, though. He is a gay, and he gets a great little arc. Part of what makes his death tragic is that he is an outsider at school. He has these two best friends. They're a couple. I know personally.
Is he best friends with Amy?
Ish. I mean, like, they have more chemistry than him and Charlie do.
Okay.
Because he spends half the movie with Amy.
When they go off together to try to get Peter Vincent to come convince Charlie that the guy's not a vampire, that is when I like both of those characters most, probably because they just got to be like gay and fun, and like
they have chemistry together.
Yeah, they do.
He is performing and he's with Charlie, which is funny because I think William Ragsdale is like the lovely version of Zach Galligan from Gremlins. Zach Galligan in Gremlins has, like, in that first movie, he's stunning. Like, talk about my weird personal aesthetic of, like, tall, skinny Jews. He's, like, the beta. Like, he is so beautiful in that movie. Mm-hmm. And then, like, he's not really giving you much, though.
No.
Whereas William Ragsdale's actually an actor. He's, like, he's sort of doing standard American dialect at some points in the movie. He's, like, a little bitsy. But, like, he's clearly competent. Didn't he do Herman's Head?
Yeah, that's where I knew him first. For some reason, Herman's Head was a big hit in my household growing up. So when I finally saw Fright Night, which I saw in college, like, this was not part of my childhood at all. I was like, oh my God, like, Herman's Head was a teenager once and he was still pretty attractive. Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking of him as being like, he looks like a Cusack cousin or something, but yeah, he does look more like Zach, what's his name?
Zach Galligan.
Galligan. Yeah.
Who looked like that in the period that, like, straight guys look like that, like when you're 20 to 24. Mm-hmm. And then he didn't look like that anymore.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
The guy who plays Evil Head, was he a child star?
I think it was, like, young enough because he has that sort of, his acting style is that of a child star.
Yeah, you described it like that. So I know a lot of people just realize, oh, he's like a queer character. To me, I get way more weird. He's just the weird kid. I got more weird than queer. And
Same for me.
And, like, the way he speaks, I can't even imitate what it's like. Like, I can't imagine what was going through his head where he's like, this is how I'm going to read this line. And the director's like, that's good.
Well, apparently she's working nights. But she left a note. Here's dinner's in the oven.
It works. It's just so specific and such a thing. I'm like, this is either great or it's not very good, and I'm not enough of an actor to tell, I guess.
Yeah, but then all of a sudden the movie slaps you with realism where it's like he's alone in an alleyway and it's not necessarily earned, but, like, watching it from a queer lens, you can't help but see there's a gay kid alone and this hot older guy. Like, when I was a teenager, all I wanted was some old guy to break in the house and, like, lie on top of me. So, like, he sort of gets this fantasy of, like, a vampire comes to him in the alleyway. I mean, like, even he chooses to go down this alleyway, which is synonymous, like, with gay sex cruising. Right. And, like, right after, you know, a slang is done about his, you know, having poisoned blood, he's all alone. His friends are a couple. I remember I had, like, my best friend who I was, like, a little bit in love with in high school. He got a girlfriend, and that's when I started becoming a runner. And, like, for me, that was, like, a whole summer where I just would go out running every night because I couldn't deal with the fact that, like, he was off with some girl.
You were trying to run away from the gay?
Yeah, or just because, like, keep myself occupied or in the hopes that I would run into them. Like, oh, you caught me running on the side of the road. Oh, give me a ride home and you won't be her girlfriend anymore. Like, but that's the sort of vibe. So it's, like, captures this loneliness, maybe unearned, but, like, all of a sudden there is a really strong queer scene in it.
You don't have to be afraid of me. I know what it's like being different. Only they won't pick on you anymore or beat you up. I'll see to that. All you have to do is take my hand. Here, Edward. Take my hand.
I don't think it's unearned. I mean, I think there's a lot of gay-coded stuff leading up to this scene where it's the scene where Ed gets turned into a vampire. And
He's
And
sobbing.
I can't imagine.
It's actually very moving.
Yeah.
It is. It's almost kind of beautiful if you don't know that the person that is showing up to meet this kid is a bad guy. He's basically going to use him as a tool, which he does. And then we see Ed like twice more after that. We see him show up to try to harass Peter Vincent, and then we see the scene where Peter Vincent kills him at the end of the movie. And at this point, Ed's turned into like a werewolf-like thing, and the special effects are really fucking good. He looks amazing.
What would Marsha Brady say?
Werewolf.
Oh my god.
Yeah, she doesn't know how to say werewolf. And also, apparently, no one on the set knew how to say that either. Werewolf. Marsha Brady can't pronounce werewolf. It's this weird pop culture thing. Peter Vincent kills Ed, and Ed is just, he's like reverts back from being a wolf, so he's just naked. He's not wearing clothes anymore because a werewolf doesn't wear clothes, of course, and
all people know that werewolves don't wear clothes.
Well, sometimes in movies, like, people turn back into a human and they have their clothes
Like
again.
the
Like,
Hulk.
you would be naked. That's bullshit. But, like, it ends with Peter Vincent looking at... He just killed this monster, and the monster's now this naked gay kid. And he's just like, okay. Except he's not... He's maybe not dead, because the last scene in the movie, which is totally not even a spoiler, is you hear Ed's voice saying...
Oh, you're so cool, Brewster.
You're so cool.
Which is really fucking cool because the movie is so queer. You know, it ends with them in bed finally like going to consummate the relationship.
Being
and then
Charlie and Amy.
Charlie and Amy, and then the last word goes to the queer kid. So like the lights go down and all of a sudden you hear his crazy demonic laugh and he's like, oh, you're so cool. And it's like sort of this thing of like, oh, you know, this is a parody of heteronormative behavior.
Mhm.
And he was supposed to be in the sequel, but then he went off to do 976 Evil with Robert Englund instead.
Right.
The sequel was supposed to be all of them coming back, and it was all like, it was sort of like a Reanimator sequel where they got the funding last minute and they're like, okay, everyone get ready to do it. And like, they're like, no, we all have careers now.
I guess Amanda Bearse is like, I'm on a sitcom, the pay is a lot better, I'm not going to do that. So they have...
And don't forget, Married with Children was a movement. Like, that thing was huge.
Oh, yeah.
Peggy fucking Bundy, star.
I mean, like, to talk about Amanda Bearse for a second, it's also, we've been saying Marcy Darcy the entire thing. She doesn't become Marcy Darcy until a few seasons in. She's Marcy Rhodes. And
really?
Because she's married to Steve. Steve is her first husband, and then Steve leaves her, and then she,
so
like...
hot. Oh, so hot.
No, Jefferson's hot.
I don't remember which one.
She was the
She had a hot
brunette, the
husband.
nebbish brunette. And then the other one was like the meat from Revenge of the Nerds.
Ted McGinley.
Oh, yes.
So that's Jefferson Darcy, and then she becomes Marcy Darcy. But I finished work a few nights ago, and I think it was on Logo, was just airing a bunch of Married with Children reruns, and it was the one where Amanda Bearse plays Marcy's lesbian cousin from out of town, which I think Glenn and I are going to do in gayest episode ever next season because it's amazing, where Marcy's cousin Mandy visits from out of town, and it's Amanda Bearse dressed like a baller, basically, and she's suave, and she can hang, and she's not uptight, and her and Al become friends, and you find out Marcy hates her lesbian cousin, not because she's a lesbian, because everyone always likes her more. And it's so cool that they let Amanda Bearse play an out lesbian character on the show where she's been playing like the opposite of that the entire time. Oh, she'd be a great interview. I would love to
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yes.
it'd be so good. I want to talk about how the first scene of the movie is Amanda Bearse wanting to get fucked. She's ready to do it, and Charlie does not want to have sex with her, either because he's watching the stupid horror movie, or suddenly he's like focused on what's going on with Chris Sarandon moving in next door. And we don't think about Charlie as being queer, really. He's like, it's very weird because most of the movie he's too focused on the sexy older vampire next door to pay enough attention to his girlfriend, which is why it's easy for the vampire to pick off his girlfriend. And then the first time he sees the vampire, it's that weird voyeuristic scene where he's looking out his bedroom window and he sees the woman take off her shirt and you see bared breasts. And then you see...
Oh, hey, teenager, looking at me.
Yeah, well, she's obviously not okay. But, like, Chris Sarandon sweeps in behind her and he's, like, giving the hardest, like, fuck me stare to William Ragsdale as he's seducing this woman. And there's just a lot of sexual energy in this scene.
I think Jerry Dandridge is definitely bisexual. I don't think Charlie's... I always made the joke about it being everyone's gay in this movie. I don't think Charlie is. You look at the bedroom. You look at the production design of his bedroom. And you look at the way that, like, the women are sort of fetishize the nipples out
Mm-hmm.
versus, say, Corey Haim in Lost Boys, who has a gay bedroom and wears gay clothes.
Mhm.
Like, Corey Haim in Lost Boys is a gay kid.
Right.
No question. Whereas I don't think there's anything gay about Charlie other than the company he keeps. I actually have a problem with the way Amy is sexualized in the movie. Because it's not... The movie doesn't give her... Even in the beginning where she's like, I'm ready, she looks like really terrified. And then she's mad because she put herself out there.
Mhm.
She made herself vulnerable being like, okay, cool, I'm ready to go. I'm horny. And he's suddenly really into the gay neighbors who moved in next door.
Right.
I think for him, it's more a performance anxiety issue where it's like, yeah, you're all about it until you actually have to show up and do it. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute, I don't actually want to go in there. It's like that versus when she, first of all, like I'm fascinated by this movie because it works. Like I said, it's commercial Wizard of Oz. There's big sequences. They go to this dance club where Jerry seduces Amy. It's played as she's being hypnotized. And this is what bums me out. Because, like, I think it would have been more interesting to have her be conscious of her sexuality and actually choose to be with him rather than all of a sudden, I lose the power in this moment. It feels a little rapey.
Most of her sexual moments are as a result of action put upon her by Jerry.
And you couple that with her obvious like discomfort with playing hyper feminine,
right?
Which I don't think we would do now. I think now if you cast this actress, you'd be like, "Cool, what do you want to wear?
Right.
What do you feel like doing? Like, how would you react?" Versus like, "No, you have to have your tits out now, and you have to wear this wig." And like the wig comes out of nowhere.
I agree with you, and I feel like it's maybe especially bad because there's a point when Jerry first meets Amy and he describes her as being lovely and young, and he's obviously paying attention to her because she reminds him of the woman in the painting, which we never really get into.
Yeah, that's the like, it's a little stretchy.
Yeah, so that actually didn't need to be there at all, but like allegedly she looks like this woman that he used to know some time ago who's probably dead.
I think that was Tom Holland's attempt at like giving depth to Jerry James.
Yeah, like a Dracula.
To like,
thing.
oh, right, exactly. Exactly. A throwback to Dracula. Yeah.
But if you just had that scene operate on the fact that he is paying attention to this woman who is not getting her needs met.
And, who are these two attractive young people?
Ed Thompson.
Ed?
Amy Peterson.
Charmed. Isn't that what vampires are supposed to do, Charlie? Please.
That's a vampire, Brewster.
And feels like she's not being paid attention to. That's enough. That's enough for her to
a
drop.
38-year-old man can fuck you better than an 18-year-old can. You're not even pretending. I think it's really creepy when older guys are into younger guys because, like, why?
I agree.
Like, they don't know what you're doing till you're like in your late 20s.
Right.
You literally don't know what you're doing, no matter how pro you are. You don't know, and it's like that's a weird thing where it's like you're right. That would have been enough. It's like I'm a real man. Like I'm not your boy, girl who gives a shit. Like, come here.
This has been an excellent PSA for dating older men. Thank you, Jeffrey McCrann.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Older men.
Casper mattress.
Mm-hmm.
This is not something we can put a clip in because it's purely visual, but the scene where she's dancing with Amanda Bearse's dress, dancing with Chris Sarandon in the club, and they're going past those mirrored walls.
I love it. I love it.
It was so beautiful because
the songs are bops too. It becomes a bit of a musical
songs?
for a minute.
I actually didn't look up what songs are those? Do you know?
They're like Fright Night specific, but like they're good enough that like if like I grew up being a horror nerd, so like I had them on mixtapes.
So yeah, just to explain this amazing
Brad
scene.
Fidel wrote the score.
Yes,
was that?
And he had done the Terminator.
Yeah, that's his
soundtrack.
big, so he's very rich.
Just to explain this scene because people might not know what we're talking about, he's twirling her and moving past these like alternately mirrored walls. So you see Chris Sarandon dancing with her, and then they're moving past a mirror, and it's just Amanda Bearse being twirled by no one because vampires don't have reflections.
A little ballet moment.
And it's like very disorienting at first. You're like, what am I looking at? You're like, oh, I see what's going on. Oh, it's so cool.
It's very cool. I want to go back to Evil Ed dying and talk about the practical effects.
Yeah.
You probably already know this, but the special effects team for this was the same team that worked on you know this already? That worked on Ghostbusters.
Oh, I did not know this.
And Columbia, which financed this movie, was trying to keep them together for another project. So they thought the easiest way would be to just throw them on this nothing horror movie that no one's going to watch. And they had developed effects for Ghostbusters that at the time they thought were too intense for a rated PG movie. So they ended up incorporating stuff they developed for that for this movie. And that's where we get the Evil Ed's death.
I could see that because that is really well done, but I actually think Billy's death is even grosser.
Lots of green slime.
He just like, it doesn't make what actually kills him exactly?
A stake through the heart.
Stake through the heart.
They shoot him a bunch and it doesn't do anything, and then an old fashioned stake to the heart doesn't it?
But that is like fascinating, awesome.
He erupts in Nickelodeon slime.
Yeah.
That's. I used to have this thing. It was like a mad scientist thing, and you'd put like clay on the guys and stick them in the liquid.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Their flesh would dissolve.
Yeah,
he basically does that. A thing that really stuck out to me. It's a stupid practical effect, but it's real, and we never see that kind of shit anymore. Is when Jerry is like sort of welcoming to the house, and you have an ominous vibe. He's got the long, gay vampire fingernails. And he's just like scraping the banister, and the banister curls up. The wood curls like a pencil sharpener.
Right.
And that's the kind of thing that's like looks so cool, but that must have taken like so much work.
Yeah.
And it's just we don't get that anymore. We don't get the little nuance.
I agree with you. I think I said it when I was watching with Drew. Like, that's a very nice touch, and it's
real.
It lasts like 3-4 seconds.
Yeah, but they had to like wax up the thing, and here's the fingernail,
it's
and like
very
it's
nice
the
touch.
thing.
Yeah. CGI stuff takes me out of, especially movies like this, where most of the effects would just be CGI now. It takes me out of it.
Which the remake does.
Yeah. But watching this, everything looks so goofy, but still more real than...
I would rather see her crazy makeup face at the end, like clearly in a mask, than the CGI version you get in the remake 30 years later.
With the actress Imogen Poots.
Imogen's great in the movie. She comes off smelling like roses. If anything, the movie, it depends on the day. Some days I think it's great.
I think it's fine. I like Imogen Poots. I also like that she's forged a successful career as an actress, despite the fact that her last name is Boots.
She's fabulous, though. She should have been Jean Grey in the new X-Men, but
she would have been a better Jean Grey than...
Yes,
Sophie
Bryan Singer
What's-Her-Face.
doesn't actually like women.
Woo!
I said it.
I'd still do it, though, for a career. You keep this in, Drew.
All right.
Keep this in.
Yeah, he might be listening.
Well, he's with Harvey in the islands. He went away.
They probably have podcasts on the island.
No, but I love with the remake. They set it in Vegas, which I think is genius because like a vampire would live. Like when you're going to Palm Springs, or going to Vegas, or going to San Diego, and you pass those like hour stretches of desert town, like Azusa. Azusa is actually pretty populated compared to like some of these deserts or like outskirts of Vegas, which is where a vampire would live, and they're all kind of transient. So that was like a clever take.
Yeah, they're Transylvanians.
Yep.
Yes. Keep it.
Do either of you guys know why the stereotype for vampire talk is that they punctuate all their sentences with blah? That has to come from someone's performance, right?
It's from They Want Blood.
It's from Bella.
Why was he saying blah?
He had a weird dialect.
Okay.
Oh, that was
And so it always sort of came off, and then like of course like some Borscht Bell comedians like blah 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 making fun of his ethnicity, and it's like okay, now we just accept that as the standard, but like actually it's really racist.
Oh yeah.
We just walked right back into a racist.
Yeah. No, but I like that the remake does some things like she's not going for gay. Marty Noxon from Sharp Objects and from
Buffy.
Unreal and Buffy. She did the remake. She wrote it. It's her baby. Craig Gillespie directed it. They have Anton Yelchin play Charlie, and they don't go the gay route.
At all.
They scrub it. So they have the kid from Breaking Bad play Ed. Therefore, it's flat as fuck. Like, it's a great concept that it's in Vegas, but without the sort of charm of the Ed character. Like, they make their relationship that they both used to be nerds and they both liked Dungeons and Dragons. But it's, like, not strong enough. It's not outsider enough.
It's also not funny in the
No,
way
it
this
doesn't-
movie is, like, goofy and, like, is always fun, even when it's kind of scary.
And feels expensive, even though it's not.
Yeah.
Like, compared to the new one, which had like 8 times the budget,
right.
never feels as grand or Hollywood as the Tom Holland movie does. And then also, I sort of built up this goodwill, like, okay, cool, it's a different take, and Imogen Poots is really lucid in her sexuality in a way that they don't let Amy be in the original movie. I think that you need to pull an adaptation. You need to therefore have Amy be the savior at the end. Reverse it. Like, and they sort of setting it in Vegas and having it be like a Chris Angel sort of version of Roddy McDowall. It would have been ripe for the girls to come in, especially with Toni Collette. Like, it should have been a reversal.
Yeah,
and instead, you all of a sudden have Imogen Poots, who's stealing the movie, being put in a passive position just because the plot says she has to be. And that bums me out to the point where I can't get over it. Also, I bought the 3D Blu-ray on Amazon because, like, sometimes I like the 3D at home. I enjoy it. It's a nerdy thing.
Do you need glasses?
Like and so, like, movies I don't necessarily, like, I'm not obsessed with, but I'll want to, like, have the 3D version. So I bought this used on Amazon, and what came was just the 3D disc. So now I don't have the luxury of watching the normal version. I have to watch the 3D version, and it's murky as fuck. Like, it literally looks like I'm wearing sunglasses on top of the glasses. It's not a great look for that movie. So yeah, it's not visually striking. However, I think the second movie, Fright Night 2, which was done without Tom Holland, and not to his chagrin, because he was trying to get part 3 going. Do you know this? Is this in your trivia?
Yeah.
With the Menendez brothers?
Yes. Yeah.
It's great. You want to tell it?
No, you tell it.
So, like, they made part 2, which I think is more feminist than the first movie, because
female bad guy.
You've got a female bad guy, and you have a girlfriend, albeit not Amy, who is very strong, and she saves the men, which is all I want. Like, I just want the girls to be on top in these movies. I think that's when horror is penetrative. When it's done, I don't like horror with guns. I give up that note a lot, and my friends don't like me because if they write scripts and they have guns, I'm like, the guns are stupid. It's not scary.
Did you like Bernadette Peters and Annie Get Your Gun?
I liked Reba.
Whoa! Reba was great. Oh,
my love hate with Bernadette's deep. I don't think Bernadette likes people. I don't think she's like Patty leans into being a mess. She leans into her humanity, and Audra McDonald's above that. But she also loves gay people.
Right.
She do all her charity work is with gay organizations. Bernadette loves
Rita
dogs.
Moreno does.
She's don't like even start with Rita. She's the shit.
Yeah.
I mean, all those boys in West Side Story were gay.
Yeah.
Like, that's nuts. I'm going to see. She's doing a Q&A at the Paley Center with George Takiris and Elliot Feld, Baby John from the movie.
Wow.
And Amber Tamblin's dad.
Oh my god.
That is the correct way to refer to him.
It's like the cast of West Side Story, but like as a gay kid, that was my it.
I agree. It was the first thing I ever saw on stage.
You know about the Casita del Campo connection to West Side Story?
No.
The founder of Casita del Campo was one of the dancers from West Side Story, and that was his claim to fame.
Stop it.
Yeah, if you ever go there, they play the soundtrack to West Side Story a lot. If you sit in the booths that have a wall next to them, not a window, there's like West Side Story memorabilia. That's where he came from.
George Takiris was gay and didn't pretend not to be. Like, that's nuts to me.
Yeah.
Oscar winner.
I have a question for both of you.
Sure.
Which I have a theory, but I don't have a conclusive answer. What Tom Holland said he did not purposely set out to do any gay elements whatsoever. What is to account for this? Like, it's screamingly gay to us.
I have a counter narrative, which is an interview by.
The journalist has a counter narrative.
It's a book called Horror Movies in the 80s, and he has a breakdown of every significant horror movie that came out in the 80s. And in the section on Fright Night, he interviews Kenny Beta, who is the editor for this movie, and he says specifically that the scene where Chris Sarandon is looking through is being seen through the window by Charlie, and his assistant goes down to like repair a wound on Chris Sarandon's body.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be evocative of like a blowjob scene.
It's very clear.
He says that was deliberate. And he says, I think it's all part of what Tom Holland was. He wanted to explore the part of it of vampirism in addition to everything else. The vampire myth is always very sexual, and I think he wanted to go into every aspect of sexuality related to vampires. He definitely peppered the script with that kind of thing. Even the relationship between Roddy McDowall and William Ragsdale had some sort of overtones to it, I think. It was just part of the whole mise en scene.
But yours counters that.
I swear to God, I maybe we can add this later. I swear to God, I read an interview where Tom Holland said at that very scene that he didn't realize it until he saw the cut.
I mean, it's 3 shots. Like it wouldn't have been accidental because like there's a whole thing where like they're both looking out the window while Billy's on his knees and they're like smiling at Charlie. Like, oh, you like that?
Sometimes a straight person just it won't occur to them. I mean, there's a lot of gay people.
I mean, there's a wink though. There's a wink. I mean, you don't do that many shots without it being like, oh, it looks like they're blowing each other.
Right. So
someone says something.
I was telling Tony that the other gay horror movie that came out in 1985 was Nightmare on Elm Street 2. And the logline for that for a long time was that, like, we don't know how this gay stuff got in there.
Including a gay bar and the coach gonna whip him and all that weird stuff.
But like after
the older I get, the more I'm like genuinely like it's one of those things is like, oh yeah, this is a gay horror movie. And at first you have to convince people. It's like the stages of denial, and then but you watch it now and it's like I can't believe that like I don't quite get what they were doing.
But it's since come around to the fact that now this far after that movie came out, some of them are like, okay, we kind of knew. And I think the hesitation to actually say they knew what they were doing was they didn't want to get in trouble with like New Line or something because that movie did not make as much money as it was supposed to. And also, I think they felt guilty about fucking over, who was the actor who played Jesse?
Oh, yeah.
Because it destroyed his career. That movie didn't turn him into a star. And I
think there's a lot of story. Like, there's a lot of, careers are funny. I'm not saying that homophobia is not a big deal. And look at like, there's certain actors married to women who have little, actors who were in Disney movies and their boyfriend actively, and they're going to see Waitress with their moms, but, we don't talk about it, even though it's like all over their social and they break that poor little kid from the Kingsman's heart, but they're still, thriving. So, like, I don't think that's what killed that kid's career. I just think he's niche and, like, he was good at a certain thing. I think that Nightmare 2 as a gay allegory would have been better serviced, perhaps. This is sacrilege, but maybe by like if you had another actor in the part, it would have been more successful. It's a gay movie, just by design. The coach is going to tie him up, and there's like a whole thing. There's like an extended moment where like the coach meets him at a gay bar, takes him back.
It's not necessarily a gay. I did one of my music video projects to that scene, and there are a lot. They
mix it, but like in the script, it says he goes to fag bars.
Okay, well,
and it's called the Manhole, or what is it, the Roundup?
I don't think they name it.
It's in neon outside, and it's like it's a gay name, and then they go inside, and he's ordering a beer, and it's Rob Shea is like the bartender, and then the coach like has a cuff. Fully like grabs his wrist and he like takes him back to the gym, has him run laps, and then he goes inside to get a jump rope, and he's like looking at all the gym paraphernalia, like picking out what he's gonna use on this kid. It's like the kind of thing like if either of them, if it was cast a little differently, it would have been like, I wouldn't have been able to move,
right?
But like because they're both just not to the aesthetic in which like we're all accustomed. It's not that.
They don't look like Billy from Gremlins.
They don't look like Zach Galligan in 1984. But also the whole conflict in that movie is that he like, and it kind of ties to Fright Night, where it's that thing, like I had a girlfriend in high school and I didn't want to have sex with her. And like, that was stressful for me.
None of us wanted to have sex with our high school.
And it was like, I loved her and we're still friends, but it was like, I was having nightmares about her china. Right. And like, that's what the conflict in Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is. He doesn't want to go all the way with her, and it's like very stressful for him. And he wants to go all the way with his gorgeous model guy friend to the point where he has to kill him. Wow. It's a trip.
That's deep.
This movie was supposed to be released in August. August 6th is when it came out. Was August a dumping ground for shitty movies back in 1985 also? The way that like... That movie, The Meg, that new shark movie that came out, they did not think that movie was going to make money, and it did. Everyone's like, "Whoa, it made money." Were they trying to dump the gay horror movie in August because they didn't think it was going to make money?
I think so. I don't think
it was about being the gay horror movie. I think it just was like, who is Tom Holland? What?
Like it didn't have any stars really.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's just like, okay, all the best.
Right.
But like there were more movies then. It was a different, it wasn't, the year wasn't sort of slated out. I mean, award season was probably always award season, but it wasn't slated out like we have our superhero movie in May, and then we have, the dumping ground is January and August.
I always get suspicious when I see a studio open a horror movie in August and not like October. Like October would make sense. That makes me feel like the studio doesn't actually have enough faith in it to be their big Halloween release.
But like, Christopher Nolan wanted late July. Like he sort of staked that out with Dark Knight, and then was like, no, I want that. That's my favorite slot because then you own August. Mm-hmm. So it's like those landscapes are always shifting. Mm-hmm. I think like Event Horizon was a dump that became a cult movie. That was an August movie.
Right.
So like there's always, I mean, it's almost great to have wasn't Jennifer Lopez the one where she has the boy next door?
My God.
I love that movie.
Oh, that movie's awful.
They killed Kristen Chenoweth.
Yes.
Kristen Chenoweth's in that movie?
She sure is. She's Jennifer Lopez's best friend.
And what happens to her?
She gets murdered violently.
Oh.
Oh, man.
That's her new philosophy.
Any guest. You offered the most movies of anyone so far to choose from.
Yeah.
If anyone has that movie, we have to do it. We have to do it.
Yeah.
The Jennifer Lopez.
He comes over, he eats her cookies.
Mm-hmm. Do either of you know the original ending of the movie in the script?
No.
That was not shot?
No.
It similar to when them watching Roddy McDowell on the television screen. He wraps up his show, and then it's revealed that he is turned into a vampire.
Oh.
And he goes, "Hi, Charlie," end credits.
Oh, I like that, actually. Interesting.
I don't
just like that voice. Just the voice that I just did.
That was good.
Hi, Charlie.
Turned into a gay vampire.
Hey,
It's also like the Rudolph. It's like a character from
Rudolph?
Yeah, the red-nosed reindeer.
Yeah.
Charlie in the box.
He's just doing Barbafella.
Barbafella is my, by now, world-famous drag persona.
Right.
She's beautiful.
Thank you.
Anything else anyone wants to say about Fright Night or anything?
Anything?
It's like the introductory gay movie. Everyone watch it. It's a good time. It's a nice, and it's like, it's like a J.O. in the back of a car in high school. It's like, okay, cool. It's not like the best thing, and you probably won't care about it much later, but like at the time, it's a big deal.
Right.
I, as a non-horror fan, of course, I was watching this intently because I was going to speak to it with you here. I'm sort of haunted by some of the scenes in it.
By Ed.
It's very moving. Yeah. I kept remarking how well made and acted it all was.
Tom Holland did good. I mean, he did this. Yeah. He did Child's Play.
I will never see that.
There's another
Child's
one. There's another
good.
one.
I said I will never see it.
What else am I missing? The Temp, obviously, with
Thinner. I don't know if Thinner counts as a good movie or not. I've never seen it.
It was later, but like he had another bop. He had another like home run. He had a good moment. And he's a sweetheart of a man, and he's got all the props in his house, which I think is really endearing and lovely.
I like that.
Uh-huh.
I like that.
I like that a guy who's apparently straight as they come made a really fucking gay movie. A gay movie for the ages. That he tricked a studio into, like, okay. So good for you, dude.
A+.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Jeffrey, where can people find you online?
Don't. I'm good. Thank
really?
You. I'm on Twitter. I have a gay horror blog. I've relaunched it. I'm inspired thanks to you guys. So it's back. FaggotyAssHorror.com. You
don't want to share your Twitter?
It's Jeffrey GMM.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll be private. Maybe I'll be open. It depends on how much I'm raging about the world at large.
Right. I'm familiar with your online presence. A lot of politics and a lot of pop culture.
A lot of show tunes.
Yeah. Tony, where can people find you online?
On Twitter, I'm at the Tony Rodrig. Yes. On Instagram, I'm at Tony Rodrig. And Barbafella's at Barbafella.
Spell Barbafella, because maybe people won't understand the reference.
It's like Barbarella, but you put an F for the R. Okay, B-A... Oh, fuck it.
No, we get it. We're good.
Yeah, we're good.
You can find me on Twitter at Drew G. Mackey, M-A-C-K-I-E. You Have to Watch This Movie is on Facebook. Look us up there. We're on Twitter and Instagram as Have to Watch Pod. Get all of our episodes at youhavetowatchthismovie.com. And please subscribe to us on any of the places you would normally find a podcast. Please give us a rate and review. We like those. You listen to podcasts before, you know why they're important. Please take like a minute to do that. Jeffrey, thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you.
Thank you for making me love a horror movie.
Podcast over.
Oh my God.
Turn round to switch on the lights.
Alice, aren't you scared of anything? No.
Oh, come on. What about horror movies and vampires?
Oh, vampires give me a pain in the neck. That's pretty good.
What about werewolves?